make it happen.
We are live. Peace, 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 and black power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Not's Radio. Place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Born Allah. And do not adjust your listening devices. We definitely got the true and living in the building today. You know, it's been 4 years since the last time we had to sit down. It was like 3-4 hours the last time we had to build. So,
You know
so
how we do,
it's
y'all.
definitely an honor. Word is
You
born.
know,
So it's definitely an honor and privilege to welcome the God back to the platform. GraveDiggaz own, uh, birth of the clan, here to give us this true and living words of power. Our brother Frukwan, Allah in the building. Peace to the God.
peace to the God, peace to all the righteous brothers and sisters, peace to the 5% nation of God's earth, peace to the nation of Islam, peace to the Moorish Science Temple, peace to my younger brothers and sisters waking up and beginning to wake up and see 2020 for what it really is, because this is the time for 2020 vision for our people. This is like do or die. This is do or die.
Right.
Or
Shout out to SykoPatheist in the building. Hip Hop Shock Psycho Channel, you know what I'm saying? Another collaboration, another one of them Brick City collaborations up in here. You understand what I'm saying? Salute to my brother Psycho, man. Peace. What's going on with you?
You already in the building, you know what I mean? Ready to get this interview on, and you know what I mean? Hopefully we get some good information out here today. Some things some people probably don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. We always bring lightness through the dark, you know how we do. But then again, you know, you always got to keep in mind that, you know, we go according to mathematics on the daily level. To 360 degrees, we see things, man. We analyze things and we try to explain why things happen the way they do, but you know, just the mass of our people subconsciously, it hasn't sparked their pineal gland yet, you know. So, like we say, we let actions speak louder than words, you know. So, hey, we can only warn the wicked of their wicked ways, you know, and those who
save their life.
You know, so God, we got to build the best way we've been doing it, and we've been enlightening our own those who seeking the knowledge. And I like to think hip hop got a lot to do with it, because what you see today is expression of the '80s generation who gave birth to their children, where the '80s generation was caught up in the real glory of hip hop when it was the year of self-destruction, Public Enemy, Rakim. You know, so this is the consciousness that is being manifested today with our children. So this is just another generation of what the '80s brought forth in regards to consciousness and bringing awareness to our people. You know, so I mean, I see what's going on today. I pay a lot of attention to it, but then again, you know, us as the older guys, and how we deal with 120, and ain't nothing changed except for, you know, same thing, different time, same thing, different day, you know. So as long as we constantly stay in tune and apply our mathematics where needed, and it helps us survive through the envy, hate, lust, and greed that's being manifested through what you see today. I mean, this is the age of technology. A lot of things you have access to. You have more access to things in today's world. You know, on a like a social media basis, and you know, back in the days, all we had was the news. You know, so now everybody got a chance to manifest their own news the same way. Now everybody got a chance to manifest their own record labels. You don't need to go through big corporations no more. You can do it yourself.
Yeah,
you know, so. It's a big difference, God. But you know, I'm proud, and I congratulate my young brothers and sisters. Y'all not getting the credit that y'all deserve, because now y'all see. See means to understand. You know that in mathematics, God. To look at, a lot of us are still looking. We're still looking, but a lot of our children see. You know, and they already know the science of what's going on, and they don't want their parents to go through it. So in a way, they're protecting their parents from going through all this over again. But we don't see it like that. You know what I mean?
True.
And then again, if you want to look at it on how I say, if you want to look at it really on what's called how can I say it, of a religious basis, religious politics. What's going on today? Really? Is European Christians are slaughtering African Christians. Because we have to realize that most murders in this country is caused by Christians. We're not looking at it on a religious basis. We're looking at it on a complex of complexion. We're not looking at it the way we're supposed to, because this is a global issue. You know, so those who already seen the trials and tribulations that their forefathers and their ancestors been through, they took the initiatives to dissolve the contract of being a so-called slave, of being so-called blacks, being so-called African Americans, being so-called colored people, being so-called Negroes, while the masses still continue to perpetuate the continuation of colonialism by supporting and not actually freeing themselves. See, there's a group of people who are caught in a system of religion, but then they see and understand certain information and certain parables from information that they read, that they're trying to fight to place themselves in that history, in that book, not knowing that the big secret is that you are and your people are the story of that book. So these people have to live under certain conditions as they continue to call themselves or be part of a society which has power over them. Meaning that they're trying to fight and claim something that belongs to someone else, a religion called Christianity. Because Christianity, our history predates Christianity. Yes, this event took place in regards to where our identity theft, the greatest identity theft in European history, was to extinguish and erase the image of the ancient Kemets, or so-called Africans, from history, because they came into our territory, because we've been on earth for so long. That's why it said that we have no set history. We're older than the sun, moon, and stars, in which we are a part of, constellation-wise and cosmically wise, because this is why certain areas of our physical composition protects us from natural law. And we're not punished or we're not cursed by it to a degree, whereas it stops us from coming out in the day, which is good for us. The sun is our friend. We have a correlation with nature. There's natural people on earth who is going according to natural law. And you know what? These people are protected by federal law. But yet you have a race of people who are continuing the image or continuing the migration of colonialism. It's not called colonialism in our days. Okay? It's called whatever you want to call it. Police brutality. By us still calling ourselves certain names, that means that there's conditions behind it. So, but then again, our children is waking up. So I give props to our children and young brothers and sisters out there fighting. But one thing we got to understand is that every time African Americans, blacks, colored people fight for one thing, you got to realize it's everybody else's thing too. So when does these people, because they're associated with Christianity, and yet they're trying to take possession of a religion that really don't have nothing to do with them? It's not about y'all. This religion was based on the survival of another civilization, of another race. But it just so happened that it was used against us as a tool, not to mention that it was the Catholic Church that initiated the enslavements of Africans.
That's true.
So you know, today is just what the world needs to see is European Christians have claimed their holy war, or their so-called what do you call it? Start with a C. That, well, whatever it is, basically
Crusades.
The Crusades, right? So basically, this is a modern day version of the Christian Crusades in real time, and they're going after the African Christians. For what reason? They still haven't woke up, and they still haven't returned back home. So therefore, they're under conditions. They ought to be treated that way, because as far as the European way of thinking, it's their property. And you can't try to take something from somebody who has a force greater than yours, a race that is more wicked than yours, and try to come at them with love, peace, and happiness. It don't work. Not when you got to understand that, if you heard the expression, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. When you see in real-time actions of a brother named Floyd, before him, Aubrey, before him, what's her name, right? The sister that got, she got killed in the house in regards to, Brianna, a no-knock warrant, in which they made a law after her. But it has nothing to do with police brutality. It's based on a no-knock warrant, which is a drug matter, a drug issue. So therefore, out of all the brothers and sisters who was murdered by European Christians coming in the name of police officers who took a constitutional oath against African Christians who basically, under the oath they took, the African Christians are recognized as 3/5 of a human. So therefore, there are conditions that come with the title that you use today to identify yourself. Okay? The whole thing is deep, but I kind of realized and stepped back, and I'm like, you know, I don't see nothing about the Nation of Islam dealing with this. I don't see nothing about the gods and the earth dealing with this. I don't see nothing about the Moore Science Temple dealing with this. And I'm like, actuality don't have nothing to do with us. This is a Christian problem. I'm protected under federal law. African Christians are now trying to get federal law. There's federal law that's already been on the book to protect us as indigenous people. Why are we still trying to claim ourselves as Black social status brands that come with conditions under the Black's Code and every other law that condemns and puts you down as a people? So I'm like, I look at the Black leaders, the elected officials, and I remember times before they got in their position, they had an agenda, a Black agenda. And then once they reached that position, that agenda now is dissolved and it's out the window, because everything that you did to get in that position, you are not applying it to the seat that you hold today. Because the science is deep when it comes to the people who you're making trade, who you're doing trade with, who you're doing business with. We're dealing if you got to look at the history of these people, you're dealing with European men. Their history goes back since we allowed them to come out the cage. Now, if I could say that, and these people known as Caucasians were saved by our people because we had a love for humanity, and we didn't want these people to just exterminate a population as a race. They was doing it themselves because of how they was conditioning themselves. They wasn't going according to the laws of nature. They was in love with animals. They wasn't in love with the sun. They wasn't in love with nature, the trees, the grass. They didn't know what properties plants held in regards to medicine. They was too busy trying to catch deers, eat them up, eat the meat, eat food, eat the rats, eat the bobcats, eat the prairie dogs. That was the condition in which they lived under for a couple of 100 years until we saved them. But then again, now you got to look at the things we get for what we did, and which our motto should be never again. Once we come back into our proper position on the planet and in relations to the human families. Because right now, some of our people are part of the human family. And the majority of our people are 3/5 of a human, deaf, dumb, and blind, slaves of the mental, deaf, and power, ones who don't know who the true and living God is or their origin in this world and worship what they know not of. That's kind of interesting to try to be fighting for something. Say you awoke and you free. Yeah, you free physically, but not really physically because you see what's going on, the damage that's being done to your people physically. But then again, if you hear this, you're talking about you free, but you haven't destroyed the psychological slavery. You haven't dissolved and just say no more to the religious slavery, spiritual slavery, because there's still parts of slavery that you haven't refined yourself to a degree, whereas you in your state of love, peace, and happiness with your people. You're not protected under federal laws. It's just it's an extended argument that our people is going through that lasts 400 years already. A lot of our people woke up. I just wish the masses of our people would come home. What's called blackout. Just forget everything that you was taught. Coming to the true realization. Learn from the gods and earths. Learn from the Nation of Islam. Learn from the Moorish Science Temple. If you got to learn from the Israelites, learn from them too. But you're learning your history. You're learning how deep your history goes because you predate slavery. We predate slavery. If we already got a UN Declaration of Rights for Indigenous People that's already telling you what you have the right to do as a people, you have a right. It ain't nothing that you got to fight for no more because the right has already been fought by our ancestors. And I mean, if you look at this, I'll just challenge brothers and sisters to read it. You can look at Section 1, Article 1. If you look at the definition of the UN Declaration, it's dealing with our people who embody historical continuity with society which existed prior to the conquest and settlement of their territories by Europeans. Duh. It also tells you, as well as people brought involuntarily to the new world who freed themselves and reestablished the culture from which they have been torn from. Don't we talk about, and our argument is that we done been stripped of everything. Your knee is on our neck. We're helping them to continue the colonialism of keeping their knee on our neck because we haven't claimed the nationality that we are. We older than the sun, moon, and stars. We already been recognized as the oldest people on earth. But if you want to continue to carry on the tradition of representing and aiding and abetting in the slave master's religion, then you're aiding and abetting in the death of future generations of young brothers and sisters who are going to call themselves Christians. So you got to look at yourself as well as look at those who's doing it to us. Because there's a list of conditions that apply to the name and the title that we call ourselves. You know, this whole thing is deep, but I give it to the young brothers and sisters. They're the ones who's receiving the consciousness. They're the one who's receiving the energy from the ancestors. Because their parents not interested in the ancestors. You know, so yo, I give props, big up to my brothers and sisters, my young gods and goddesses. Yo, keep it moving. You know, keep it moving. And we need to strategize, you know, strategize. We got to put out, I mean, if we already got a government, yo, let's just deal with our government. Let's deal with I'm Washington. I've been Washington, claimed my nationality, it's almost 10 years now. You know, I ain't having no problems whatsoever. No problems with constables, no problems with states, no problems with anything that I claim, because I put myself in tune with natural law, and that's how I conduct myself. I'm still a poor righteous teacher, regardless of how much dough I got, if I got dough or not. The greatest riches is the knowledge of oneself. Our lessons teach us a lot, but we got to apply our lessons, and we got to live by them. We just can't talk about it and not be about it. You know, so, you know, it's like to my brothers, yo, y'all in the industry, we got to remember that what we're doing is perpetuating and aiding and abetting in the continuation of colonialism. Okay, because their thing is that they're going to always remind you that you was born here as a slave and you're 3/5 of a human. That's all it is. And we play the roles of the slaves. You know, yeah, we got to look at what we're doing, because, you know, you talk about Christ and you talk about Christianity, that's all well and good, but they had African names. And if you don't look at yourself and see yourself like every nation got a God, look the same as them, you do too. You don't have to argue about their situation, because in antiquity back then, it was only 3 races that exist: African, Greeks, and Romans. No other race exists. Okay? And out of the 3 races that exist, their image of their savior.
What about the Indians?
The Indians, they're descendants of our people.
No,
but basically,
well,
you're talking about.
They originally called the Asians Indians, right? Like that's why when they came over here and they saw the natives over here, they got the name Indians, because they said they resembled the people out in India. That's how they actually got the name Indian.
Well, I mean, you know, where's India? Is India in Africa?
Well, no.
India's not in Africa? You got to remember, look at this. What you're saying today, our history predates that. You got to remember, there was a point in time when the continent was together, before the continental shift or the continental split. So we could talk about, this is Northwest Africa, but we call it North America. We could talk about, this is the United States. Those who haven't aligned themselves with their ancestors and their history will represent and advocate that which they was taught, not that which they know. Okay, so regardless, if India wasn't in Africa, the whole continent was Africa at one time. So wherever we placed ourselves back then, and when these fault lines split, we ain't have no other choice but to stay on the continent that we was on. Okay, now, Indians were second-class citizens. The Moors were here before the Indians. Okay, so we're talking about a time in antiquity when we already been traveling across all these continents as a whole before the split, and yet we were setting up chambers and we were setting up temples and basically our people was just migrating left and right. So regardless of Indians didn't exist back then in antiquity. They wasn't called Indians. Just like we wasn't called blacks and we wasn't called Africans. Okay, even Africa has a name before the European came, named Tamari or Kemet. But nobody talk about those righteous names except for those who put themselves in their proper perspective and alignment with their ancestors. Now, saying that, we taught civilization to all the human families of the planet Earth. We've been recognized as the oldest indigenous people on Earth. So therefore, I tell you that we was the first people on Earth, and there was nobody else here. Okay, we were the scientists, the engineers, the architects, the doctors, and everything else before it touched any other race. And if they did, they came and we taught them, and they learned how to take care of their own people. But still, what makes us the mother and fathers of civilization? Why are we branded with that? But then many of us is not acting that way. We act in disaccord to the degrees whereas we children, we're cattle property, and we're slaves of a mental death and power. And we're worshiping that which we don't understand, have no knowledge of, but our parents and forefathers and parents gave us this information because maybe it was to a point where, they was tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting. Ready to, it's like, they got a coronavirus going on today. Okay. Brother Floyd, Brother Aubrey, Sister Brianna. Before them, there was a couple of hundred other more. Okay. Now look what's going on. A coronavirus is a biological disease. It's a biological disease. We've been hit with a biological disease. We don't need to wait for the Europeans to tell us what to do and how to conduct ourselves. This should have been something that we all discussed through our communities, through our forms of contact, media, and everything else, so that we need to warn our people. We can't worry about nobody else. Ain't nobody worrying about us because they think we're a hindrance against the progress of humanity. You know that. There's too many of us. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. We haven't returned back to our natural nationalities to a degree, whereas the key is ready to be given back to us. Because this is North America. This is not the United States. The United States is the 10 area square mile between Virginia and Maryland. This is North America. When you look on the maps, South America is there, Mexico is there, Canada is there. Everybody else got their names of their nationality except this continent. It's called the United States. It's not North America. And it's deeper than that. We got to understand that we're dealing with a system of commerce. We've been basically giving up ownership of our property since birth. Okay, we carry in artificial names, construct names, based off statutes and codes, which means we denied our very own nationalities once we claim to be a U.S. citizen. Once we claim to be a black person, it has no standard in law. This, if you look at the Supreme Court ruling on the Dred Scott case, tell you that no European has to respect the black man. Because you're not identified as black. Not in the court of law. It has no standard. Colored, African American. Basically, look at African American. If a European who was born in Africa comes here, he's technically an African American. You ever think of that?
I don't like the term African American. That's Jesse Jackson stuff. So yeah.
So then again, you got to look, because every year or every 20 to 30 years, when our people try to identify themselves, we done went from Negroes, we done went to Afro-Americans, we done went to coloreds, we done went through Every other name that we try to identify ourselves, we're not trying to identify ourselves as a nationality. We're trying to identify ourselves as a people. But every name has to be approved by the European Union. It has to be approved by the European Union. Because we haven't woke up yet, and according to...
I agree with that. I agree with that. Self-identification is very... I'm all about self-identification, yes. We can't let white people identify us. I definitely agree with that.
You know, so basically this is what's going on. And some of the elected officials are caught up in the quid pro quos. Yo, if you do this for me, I do that for you. That's how the system operates. That's how it's been operating since its formulation as a corporation. People still think the United States is the government. It's not. It's a corporation. It's been a coup took place. A coup took place in 1933 when Roosevelt abolished the gold standard. You know, so therefore, if you're looking at it as African American, if you're looking at it as a Black Christian, basically you're under the jurisdiction of statute, codes, and ordinance. In the United States, as a corporation, they gotta. If you go to the courts, you see in God we trust. Where is it that church and state supposed to mix? Why is there church within the state? Court of law. When people don't understand that God don't mean God. That God represents government ordinance government's ordinance department. So we can get caught up in the art of words and reading things of what we think that got something to do with our Christianity or our religion that's supposed to protect us. But no, it has a different definition. Okay, so like I said, with the names that we call ourselves, it comes with conditions. So until you free yourselves from them conditions, I mean, like, you know, what happened to Brother Floyd? I feel bad for the family. But there was families who went through the same thing before that family experienced it with their son. When does it come to a stop? It ain't gonna never come to a stop, because this is this is what they call a perpetual event that's going to take place in regards to African Christians still trying to fight for identification, or still trying to fight for identity as a slave. There's a contract. These are contracts. Okay. There was a reason Martin Luther King, rest in peace to my brother. Martin Luther King was assassinated by the corporation, by the higher elites, the archive, the higher elites. And it has something to do with the church, the Catholic Church. Because for the simple fact, how are you going to try to save your people and free your people when you haven't freed yourself? First, you got to free yourself. And I ain't talking about free yourself. I'm talking about you're African American, but yet you want to free your people from the brutality that they're going through, when there's already a system for you to free yourself and be protected under international law, and you have to deny and you have to dissolve your contract with the United States and take possession of your straw man, which is your birth name, or how we say your government name. These brothers didn't do that. So therefore they was in default, because they tried to do something, free a nation, free a people, but they didn't go through the proper process to free themselves first and dissolve their contract with the United States as a U.S. citizen. Claim yourself under the UN Declaration, have your nationality, so now you're protected under international law, because all European nations already agreed that we are the oldest people on earth. Same thing happened with Malcolm X. Love and peace and respect to his family. But he was still carrying himself as his government, with his government name, when he tried to free his people through a religion called Islam. So basically, these are contracts. Basically, when you go into default and you haven't freed yourself, and you trying to free somebody else and free another people and haven't freed yourself, you in default. There's consequences with the default. You're dealing with a Christian European corporation called the United States. You can't do that here. Only the Europeans are allowed to do that, because it's their property. And you can't meet them on their property if you come as property, because property can't own property. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you look at it's right there. All this stuff, I mean, you know, I'm like, why haven't we waking up? Why can't we wake up? You're trying to argue about federal law. Now, let's say if Brother Floyd claimed his nationality, and that happened to him, not as a U.S. citizen, but let's say as a Washita. That means that it was done by state police, it was a federal crime, and now they are a violation of conspiracy against rights. That's already on the books. It's called Title 18, Chapter 241, Conspiracy Against Rights. If two or more persons conspire, injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the United States, territory, commonwealth, possession, district, or in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, will be punished. So now state agents are in violation of federal law. But when this happened to him as a U.S. citizen, we don't have to recognize what's going on because you are property. You're not protected under international law. They are now trying to fight for federal law, which already exists for them people, for our people. I'd rather be protected under federal law instead of working with states and dealing with statute codes and their statutes and codes, because basically it's not working for us. So basically, if you protect it under federal law, that means, states violate federal laws every day, but people go to state attorneys to try to argue for a state problem. When you're protected by federal law, that means that states are under the jurisdiction, statute, codes, and ordinance of the federal law. So that means if you're protected under federal law, that means that if states have to watch their ass and what they're doing, because they know now there's a severe system that's going to come after them 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whether they're a judge, state judge, whether they're a state attorney, whether they're state police, whether they're state detectives. If they violate federal law, they're getting snatched. There ain't no working out no deal once you violate federal law, because the feds don't bullshit. People know this. Okay, so I'm like, if these federal laws is already on the book, why are you trying to fight for new federal laws? They got a federal law called Title 18, Chapter 242, Deprivation of Rights under color of law. Now you hear what's going on in Floyd's case. They're talking about the officers operating under the color of law. Okay, so that means if Floyd was under the federal law, and if he claimed his nationality, meaning that not only that, but we as a nation had the right to defend and protect our interests and property. So Floyd would have been our property. We can't fight for people who don't want to wake up and come home, because we're not going through this. Y'all going through that. If you've already been identified as the oldest people on earth, you talk about your Christianity and you talk about your history and you know that you are somebody, you can live that illusion, but that's not the reality when you wake up and walk the streets 4 o'clock at night in the European neighborhood. Because I could pull out my identification, in which I have diplomat identification. I ain't carry state ID in 10 years. And when I have problems, there's a thought before they figure out what they're going to do with me. Because you one of those brothers who are, you under federal law. I think we need to call the supervisor, because it wouldn't have got to no knee on the neck. A supervisor would have been called while he was held up right against the wall in front of the store. The brother jogging. Aubrey. You know, you had make-believe police. If he knew who he was, if he knew the law, like we all supposed to know, then that whole situation could have been squashed because all he had to do was identify himself. Europeans would have stepped back. All right, because now you in the process of violating federal law.
Yeah. So
I mean, this shit is deep, man. I mean, it's deep.
So do you?
And then again, not to cut you off, but the continuation of federal law. These are certain rights that you have. Conspiracy of rights, meaning that deprivation of rights under the color of law. You can even sue civilly for actions for deprivation of rights through the federal channel, not through the state. Not to mention the state can't interfere with your case because then they'll be in violation of another federal law, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. All these is already on the book. It's already on the book. African Christians are trying to fight for something to be put on a book, which is already on the book, federal law, and it's been there for a couple of years now. To protect the indigenous people who claim their nationality and want to live in love, peace, and happiness, and want to live according to the natural law and order. Not statute, codes, and ordinance, which you got to understand. When you're dealing with nationality, you're dealing with treaty law. That's the supreme authority under the Constitution. Because the Constitution clearly states that treaties are the supreme law of the land. Our people here don't have a nationality, don't have a flag, and not recognized as part of the human family. If you remember when Hurricane Katrina took place, African Americans were called refugees. So I'm like, listen to the words of art to what's going on in the condition in which you live under, how you identify yourself comes with conditions. It comes with conditions. Even though brothers now is making money in the entertainment industry or whatever it is, the music, the football, the movies, all these brothers and sisters can have all their property and wealth intact, held under a trust that's already been set up by your ancestors. But now we too busy, thinking like, the Western way of thinking, but then again, it's another thing to be, see, U.S. citizens pay taxes. American citizens don't. While African Christians are here on this continent, your birthrights have been stolen. It's been replaced by another people who came here as visitors who are still here today. And they done took over what was rightfully yours, left behind by your ancestors. We dealing with land.
So you don't think slavery actually happened?
Slavery was a diversion. The same way Europeans distract us from every other thing when it comes to us coming together as a unified nation. It was nothing but a distraction because we was already here before the Indians came, before the Europeans came. Memphis is the capital of Egypt. We already been coming back and forth here before the Indians was here. But the way that we came, we had to go through Mexico and California and the western side of North America so that we could set up shop. We came both directions, east and west. So when we landed on what's called the Moorish Coast, which is the outskirts of the continent, and worked our way in. We was already here. It's just that you got to understand what we did, what we built. No race in their lifetime have ever seen such architectural work, grand designs, statues, stones carved. They didn't even know how to write. They didn't know how to read. They didn't know how to survive as a civilization. We already been doing it. And we had to learn through trial and error ourselves, but we got it right. Okay, so I'm like, our people need to take a second look at what's going on and the religion that they studying. Now, I may be shunned and demonized for what I'm saying by the Christian population, by their executives. But really, I don't care, because truth be told, and in my lessons, there's Bible verses in my lessons when I'm dealing with 120. You know, Ezekiel 3 chapter, Ezekiel, what is it? Ezekiel chapter 3:18 verse. When I'm saying to the wicked, thou shalt surely die, thou givest no warning to speak of the one, the wicked from their wicked ways to save his life. That same man shall die in his own iniquity, but his blood shall require in thy hand. You know, I mean, yo, it all relates to us. We can put ourselves in time when it comes to that religion, but they can't place themselves in time when it comes to their own religion, because it's so divided with their people and the process that they went through in order to establish it. All right, yeah, there was a such thing as Jesus, Mary, and God Himself, but His name was Asar. These are true and living brothers and sisters that walked the earth, left their history written in stone. It's carved. It's right there. We got to understand, this is how every other civilization began to place themselves in history, by going and being taught by what we already established, the civilization. And it's just like a movie, you know. And some of the names have been changed to protect the innocent. And this time, in this event, most of the names that was changed was to destroy the image of the black people, or the African people, or the ancient Moabites, or whatever names we had back then, because it's based on nationality. You know, so I mean, this whole thing that's going on, I respect the young brothers and sisters. Yo, I give y'all props. Word is bar. You know, I love it. You know, because throughout history, it was always the older races that was fighting against the younger races. Meaning those who wanted, those cultures who wanted to dominate and establish their authority in our land, all started off as older adult Greeks, older adult Romans, who was going against the young gods and goddesses of ancient Kemet, Egypt. So what's going on today is the ancestors is coming through the young brothers and sisters. I don't care how it's coming through, because it's not coming through with some of the teachings of the parents. It's coming through with the visualization of treatment of what's going on and what may happen to them or their seeds in the near future, or the future generation of the next generation that's coming. So, yo, I give them props, but I still think they need to protect themselves as they get older, because they need to have an identification so that you can be protected under international law, federal law, so that these states can't come after us the way they do. States and counties are the one that's murdering us. Okay, now, I got beef with the federal government because they tried to do and implement some things too, along with the CIA, to hurt our people. But they got caught in what they was doing by a group of UN people or other nations or other high echelons in other nations who were Europeans themselves, that said, yo, you can't do that. That's not right. They ain't going to never say sorry to us. That's what we need to understand. They're never going to apologize for what they did. It's like they're never going to give you reparations, because how can you try to claim something if you have no name and identity? Our people is trying to fight for things, which is all good, but then again, you got to remember, you got COINTEL operatives who's trying to divert your attention from what the real thing and the real message is, and you got some people who trying to claim themselves and put themselves in a position where they're false prophets and thinking and confusing the people to believe that I'm your savior. I've been sent by Jesus. So follow me. You know, I mean, if you don't look at the big picture and a nationality vision, I'm a Washita. I'm glad I'm a Washita. You know, Chief Sunstar. I done dissolved that contract. I took possession of the straw man, which means, you know, hey, they may try to use that name as their property, but unless they show and prove that they have rights and they have ownership over that property through the documents that I filed and I claimed, basically they're in violation of copyright infringement. And there's a condition that goes with that. Whereas if you come after me unlawfully without authorization from the authorized representative of my straw man, I can therefore put a lien on you because you're in violation of copyright infringement. And basically, I'll give you an X amount of time to pay me for violating my copyright infringement, my straw man. And if not, you go into a default judgment in which I can apply involuntary foreclosure on all property that you own. What? You could do that? But we ain't wake up. We trying. We waiting for the rest of our people to wake up to come home. So we could be the Washita Nation that, yo, ain't nobody gonna be able to fuck with us because everything we do, basically you're gonna have to have authority to use it. And now we could set up and do business. You want to talk about power economics? Not to mention, you connect yourself as the heir to the land. So therefore, the whole thing, the process is reversed. Europeans are no longer white. They're now black because they're in their proper perspective. And what's the definition of black means pale? How can we call ourselves black people when we are not pale? These are what all the scholars know. They know who we are. We don't. Okay, and for those who know who we are and claim back that who we are, and propria persona, meaning flesh and blood. I'm not an artificial person. I'm flesh and blood. Now, you got a whole different chamber to deal with when you step to me now. Because now you are a public servant. You are the servant. I have the authority. I am the authority over you and your judgments. And if you want to take it to law, you want to take it to court, we're going to have to go to federal court because federal laws has already been violated by what you've done to me. And don't come crying to me talking about your children going to miss their daddy. You wasn't thinking about that when you detained me, unlawfully assaulted me, and everything else. Okay? So it's a wake-up call. But we're not in 2020 vision. We looking, but we not seeing. And I mean, yo, real talk, yo. I love all my brothers and sisters, but, you know, I'm a grave digger. And I seek the truth. And I unearth graves of those who are deaf, dumb, and blind to try to wake them up so that they can see the true light, deal with the upliftments of the pineal gland, the pineal glands, make sure that, you know, they ready. Because, you know, as long as our people are still considering themselves as Christians, they're still controlled by a master. They can't think for themselves because their actions are based off faith, allowing someone else to control their life, which means you can't think for yourself because, you know, a Christian woman asks her, yo, you got a man? Yeah, I got a man. Jesus Christ, God is my man. You can't try to build a relationship with a woman who's already deaf, dumb, and blind and talk about she got a man and Jesus Christ is her man. Oh, what kind of relationship? Which means that the man that she
I actually agree with that part. I actually agree with that part. Yeah.
You know, I mean, so that means that the brother you meet ain't going to wind up being your man because there's no one superior to this illusion called Jesus. This blonde hair, blue eye. So therefore, you still continuing the perpetuation of colonialism, whether indirectly or directly. psychologically, subconsciously, not consciously, because you know better consciously. So I mean, it's deep, but it's the reality of what's going on. And I say, like, I'm glad that the Muslim nation, Islam nation is being attacked too. And they're using our own people to attack us, which is a damn shame. So it's all well and good, but everything happens for a reason. This is all part of the cipher of going from knowledge to born back to knowledge. We know, I mean, according to our lessons, we know that they love the devil because the devil gave them nothing. We know how much, let's say we know the total population of useful land used by the daily total population of the planet Earth. But if you look at them lessons from 1934 to 2020, there's a lot of land that's been exchanged, and it's not equaling out to what the lessons have been teaching us. So therefore, we have to use our own calculations of what's going on so that we can correct the lessons that we teach. It's like us talking about Yakub back 8,400 years ago. This is the year 2020. So it's more like the year 10,200 years ago. So we have to keep up with our history. That's why we renew our history every 25,000 years. So I mean, y'all my brothers, I love y'all. I would never let nobody talk no bullshit to the gods of earth, to the 5% nation, the Moorish Science Temple, or the Nation of Islam, or the Israelites, because these are a group of people who is fighting for a right that they already know the truth of. And I'm with that. My young brothers and sisters that's out now, y'all need to, with these college courses and all this kind of stuff in the high schools, but they don't want brothers of consciousness going through these high schools and colleges and doing shows or talking to the youth, talking to the brothers and sisters. They'd rather have a Christian artist come through and shit because, basically you ain't really going to be talking about nothing. It's just going to be entertainment. It's not edutainment. You know how we started off in hip hop? It was edutainment. That was our thing. Stop self-destruction, stop the violent movement. Public Enemy, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One, Nas, LL Cool J. Today, only thing I'm seeing is I heard the joint that Nick Cannon did. I respect that brother. Yeah. I respect that brother because you know what? He holds a position of culture. He represents it in the turban that he wears. He ain't scared, but he know the truth. He grew up in the era of consciousness. But you know what? He ain't sell out like other brothers who done came in the name of righteousness and then just, said, fuck the righteousness. I'm rolling with the devil now. I done sold my soul and have no more control over the events or calculations in which they're trying to do something. It has to be a third party to intervene in it and how you say it, kind of like blend it, mix it, get into it, and put their 2 cents in. So therefore, now your concept ain't original no more. It's already been diluted, mixed, and tampered with. So it's a lot of things going on, man. But I just wish that we seen it the way it's supposed to be seen, through the eyes of common sense. The legacy of our history. Like I said, I mean, I'm almost 60 years old now, y'all. I ain't giving up. I ain't said this is the end for me. I'm not letting nobody try to dictate or tell me how old I'm supposed to be, or when age, or what age I'm supposed to stop building. That's the problem with our people. We let outside parties, third parties, and foreign invaders come in to tell us, all right, that's enough. You're too old to do this shit now. You know, but it's all right for their elders to still continue doing what they do. But nah, you ain't gonna treat me like a slave. You ain't gonna treat me like a child. You know, I'm not dumb US. I'm Washita. You can't tell me. I've been here for you, before you. I predate you. And what you have is my intellectual property. Now, how much you giving me for the use of my intellectual property? This is the mind frame that we're supposed to be in. This is, you want to do business. We allow the Europeans to come in and make trade. But this is the thanks we get for teaching them civilization. They done stripped us of who we are, who we were, erased our history off the planet Earth, replaced it with theirs and their image, and now they're running with it. You know, I'm a grave digger. That's what I always say. I'm a died grave digger. You know, Stetsasonic was good, but I seen the light with grave diggers. You know, and then again, you know, out of hip hop, you know, what hip hop group ever performed on the White House, in front of the White House? Only group I know is Gravediggaz. And that's when they did Free South Africa for Nelson Mandela. So I mean, the hip hop, the footsteps of hip hop has been placed everywhere, even within government. Okay, because now these elected officials were once artists. They sang, they did hip hop, they was a dancer, they was break dancers. You know, so we making moves and putting people in strategic places, but it's just that the agenda, they can't live up to the agenda that they basically was fighting for before they got in that seat. And everything was thrown out the window after they got in that seat. Now it's a whole new language, and it's a foreign language, because the system that you're now in is not catered to any corrections. You have to now be part of it. You done swore an oath, but then you break that oath every time you do a quid pro quo and divert funds that's supposed to go to the community in which your agenda was fighting for. Now it's going in your pockets or going to other departments of state departments, Department of Transportation, Department of Commerce, Departments of Education. Now it's, you know, you're not spreading the wealth no more. Now you're aiding and abetting in the conspiracy of depriving our people for what's rightfully theirs and what they rightfully should have to make themselves better, and so that the future generation can have some form of education. So, you know, I mean, you know, that's my thinking, and that's the reality of what's going on, because that's just what it is. You know,
yeah.
I just wish our people come home. Just come home, yo. You've been given the green light. The door is open. Article 6 in the UN Declaration of Rights tells you that everyone has the right to a nationality. They're telling you, you don't have to ask for permission. You don't need your slave master no more. You could just, you know.
Why not start up a new nationality then?
Huh? I didn't hear that.
Why not start up a new nationality?
Why are we always, that's the problem with our people. We're always trying to start something new, but already have something that exists that is for you. You know, so it's like, I hear what you're saying, a new nationality. There ain't no new nationality. What's the new nationality when we the oldest indigenous people on earth? What's the new nationality? And these agreements and by the European nations was based on you being the descendants of the oldest people on earth. Why you need a new nationality when you got an old one that they are conducting themselves to
What's
put
our
them
old
place?
nationality? What's our old nationality?
Our old nationality is Moabites, Canaanites, Moors, Amaru. These are ancient languages in the ancient time in which. Say it again.
We from Morocco?
Well, yeah, we're in Morocco. This is Al Morocco. See what I'm saying?
This landmass.
Did you hear? Hold on. Did you hear what I said? This is Al Morocco. This is part and parcel of the Moroccan Empire. This is Al Morocco before the Europeans came here. They basically came here and how can I say it? They corrupted the landmass. They corrupted our way of life.
Who's the people that Europeans identify as Native American?
Well, there ain't no such thing. There ain't no such thing as Native Americans, yo. That's European terminology. That's 17th century.
That's why I said the people that they identify as Native American. Like who are they?
Native Americans. I don't know, but I'm saying if this is North America and Native Americans are identified as Indians, then Indians originated from India. How did they become Native Americans? Okay, who labeled them Native Americans and for what purpose? And what time frame was that in history? But you got to remember.
It would be around. America got named, I believe it was like 1506, I believe, when America got named. And it was named after a navigator from Spain or whatever.
You talking about Americo or some shit like that?
Yeah, so it would be sometime around that time. It'll be after that. Yeah.
But you know what? You got to remember, you're dealing with information that was brought forth to distract, to veer off, to benefit another race who's here, and basically he who holds the gold makes the laws. So basically, you got to also look at a biological weapon. A plague has been brought forth on the shores of North America. Okay, 100,000 people died. Over 50,000 was African Americans. Did you know that?
Say that again.
Over 50,000 African Americans died from the biological weapon called coronavirus. You know that?
Yeah, some wild numbers. Yeah, the numbers keep going.
Okay. Up. Now listen. Now listen. This is my point. Why is it that we've seen the murder or the assassination of one brother, we've seen another brother get shot, we've seen the sister get shot? Why is our focus so focused on that? 3 people, our brothers and sisters, who I give my condolences to the families. They could have been protected. Why is it that those 3 get so much attention? 50,000 of our brothers and sisters are dead. How do we get to let somebody tell us who to fight for and who not to fight for? 50,000 is dead. Aunts, uncles, brothers, mothers, fathers. Innocently. They wasn't committing no crime.
Yeah, I agree. That's not viewed as a murder. That's why it's not receive the same attention. I'm like,
it's how could this be? It's not a priority.
It's not going to be viewed as a murder.
That's not a priority. That's not a priority. 50,000 of our brothers and sisters died.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I was saying but it's not viewed as a murder though. So that's why the other thing is going to get more attention, because that was, that's a murder at the hands of our oppressors. Okay,
I got that point. Now look at this point. Okay, U.S. citizen, African American. Okay, state conflicts. All these happen within states. Okay? Now, done in the hands of an individual or individuals, right? Now, we go after the officers who committed the murder. Let's look at the Floyd situation. The officer who murdered Floyd, actually assassinated Floyd, was still on the job in Minneapolis. He committed 2 more murders before this one. A.B. Kobachov didn't want to prosecute the case. Why are we not blaming her for this individual killing the next one? She allowed it to happen twice before this one.
She should get smoked too.
Okay, she didn't want to prosecute the cases, and it's the same dude who killed the other 2 people. And we're talking about a pattern. Okay, look at our attention span. Okay, now, Moors, Nation of Gods and Earths, Nation of Islam, even Israelites are coming together to go on after the head people. Not these little fish. We after the big fish. The big fish right now holds a seat as the chief executive officer of the corporation called United States, in which he heard our authority and respects our authority. He cannot give African Americans the same authority. It's a two-way street. There's 2 constitutions on this land called North America. There's the first one, which is the organic constitution. Then there's another one in which the Africans was applied to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments as chattel property, 3/5 of a human, and they accepted it. Basically, you carry identification that agreed with it. Here, every time an officer asks you your name, you complying and you aiding and abetting in the continuation of colonialism, their power over yours. This is exactly what you're doing. Okay, 50,000 people, brothers and sisters, already died from a biological chemical that came from the far west or the far east, with certain elites already having an antidote to this, while the total population are unaware that an antidote exists. This is a game of profit. Death is a game of profit. Death is a profit. You don't think people are dying and getting paid from the death and already making a calculation of how much they're going to make because of the death? This is a money thing, because death is expensive too, and people are making money from death. The stock market is making money from death. A lot of people is making money from our deaths. A lot of people have adhesive contracts on insurance of some of our people or most of our people, and we don't even know it. So basically, there's a saying: you're worth more dead than alive. You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
So that's real talk. That's real talk. And at war. At war. This is a war. The war is that European Christians are on a new crusade with the African Christians. This don't have nothing to do with the color of your skin, whether you're a man, woman, or child. This is a crusade. And remember, Pope Julius II in 1505 instituted the enslavement of other people, especially Africans. Well, specifically Africans. So why continue to be part of worship that and you think that you can make a change with someone who deliberately destroyed your ancestors, murdered and raped your women and children, and you want to justify their actions now that you're African Christian. And the church was used, and what's that, Kosovo, in Africa, where they set up the slave posters. Got a church sitting right on top of them. All this was instituted by the Catholic Church to enslave you. How is it that you want to try to justify what they did and use Jesus Christ as your example, and you don't know no history before that?
Yeah, the Red Cross and all them. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm like, wow, really? Is it that complicated? I mean, yo, my younger brothers and sisters, keep it moving. But I know y'all better claim your nationality with all this that y'all doing, because it's going to put y'all in a better position for the future generation of your children. You know, I ain't doing this. Listen, I'm not making no money from this. I'm not trying to talk about, I'm not using my position as a tool so I could keep my people deaf, dumb, and blind. I'm not a preacher. Okay? I'm not caught up in envy, hate, lust, and greed, and I don't have what's called Trumpitis. It's not all about me. Because niggas today got that same way of thinking, Trumpitis. And that shit is running rapid. You don't want to look out for your own people who you grew up with and that supported you. And you want to shit on them, forget about them. Now you got a new group of people who are fucking basically Europeans, and they throwing all kind of money at you, and you done sold your soul to the devil. But then again, you still in a position where you have a fan base, and just like Trump, regardless of what he texts, everybody agrees with it. Even when he going after people who have nothing to do with what's going on in a text that he done put out. Okay, so this shit is real. I mean, yo, it's deep, but I say y'all need to look into it. Study your lessons.
Oh, definitely.
Word is bond, God.
We do a lot of study. We do a lot of studying over here.
And you got to apply those, God. I mean, look at what's going on, God. I mean, as a property, as chattel, you know what? Our economics has been, we invented a lot of things, but under the conditions that we were in, the slave masters took credit for it. You know how much stuff we made if you're dealing with civilized governments. I mean, ancient. I mean, even to today. I mean, if you look at, let's say, if you look at typewriter, it's a lot of stuff that we brought forth. We have intellectual property that is being basically profited by other peoples who held us as slaves, as captors, as indentured servants. Okay? Image converter, radiation detector, peanut butter, paints and stains, lotions and soaps, automatic fishing reel, envelope seals, laser fuel, pressure cookers, window cleaner, guitar, a golf tee, the motor, the rotary engine. All this was created by our people. Gas burners, kitchen table was invented by us. The wrench was invented by us. Eye protectors, egg beater, defroster, air conditioning unit, 2-cycle gas engine, internal combustion engine, starter generator. We have no claim in which relief can be granted in the court of law because property cannot own property. They can't go after this for intellectual property. Look what we did to civilized society. What did we do? Look at all the stuff that we did. the relay instrument, electrical cutoff switch, fire escape ladder, telephone system, electronic mechanical brakes, electronic rail system, roller coaster, automatic air brake, helicopters. We are the inventors of it. And what do we get for our thanks? Y'all don't get to enjoy the benefits off y'all fruit and labor. Guided missiles. We invented this stuff with technology. It's like the sisters who helped the Europeans to help the U.S. get up in space. Our history is hidden. And as property, they got the right to do it because we're under contract for them to not tell us anything about our achievements and our greatness. Dustpan, insect destroyer gun, baby buggy, sugar refinement, clothes dryer, even cellular phone, pressing comb. We did all this. We are inventors of all. How could, is this not our intellectual property? Is this not our intellectual property?
Yeah.
But what? What's the problem? Why can't you claim your intellectual property and try to? Why can't you do it? You can't claim your intellectual property because you have no standing in law.
Getting screwed out trademarks and copyrights and shit like that.
Yo, I'm saying, look at the sister who did research to find out that her family actually invented wine or some kind of liquors, J&B, whiskey or something, and yet the slave master took credit, made millions and billions off of it until the truth came out that an African family started the whole making of whiskey and wine and liquor and all this kind of stuff. I mean, come on, man. What they getting out of it? What are they getting out of it? Now that after 100 years, they done been in business, made over $1 billion, and now later the family who rightfully father taught the other Caucasian slave master how to make wine or whiskey, and next thing you know, the only honorable mention they get is that we're going to make a line of whiskey out of your father's name. It's too late. It's already been 100 years. You made billions of dollars. Now you got to start from scratch, ground zero. Now you got to hustle and advertise the sale for your father's line of signature line of whiskey or wine or whatever it is, and you don't get none of the proceeds.
Right.
From the sales that you existed for over 100 years. You're not going to get not a tenth of that profit. I mean, come on. What's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture?
Well, we got.
And they tell us that we ain't nothing. We ain't nothing. Y'all ain't do nothing. That's why I say that African Christians are being hunted and mutilated, and basically this is the newest form of lynching for the European Christians. Because one thing you got to understand is Europeans love murder. They love killing things. If it ain't humans, it's animals. If it ain't animals, it's the atmosphere. If it ain't the atmosphere, it's nature. All right? It's a poison. But at the same time, their children are growing up with some form of consciousness with this hip hop that we did. And the reactions of what's going on today. Because you know what? They seen the trials and tribulations. They also all been on display as they was growing up, and their parents telling them, "Ooh, good for them, good for them." But then they growing up Christians and knowing that that don't make sense. So they got some sense of consciousness. It may not be equivalent to our young brothers and sisters, but they growing up with them. So therefore, they're getting to see a taste. They're getting to feel a taste of what's going on, because really, according to universal law, what goes around comes around. There's going to be a point where we rule. I don't know if we're going to be as merciful as we were last time in Antiquity. I think it's going to be some serious restrictions on the power and authority that we have over other nations. But then we ain't going to forget what they did to us so that they can be in the position that they are now. Because our motto is going to be never again. Never again. All right? So that's like real talk. Now, other than that, I love y'all motherfuckers, y'all my brothers. But I'm a grave digger.
Definitely.
You know, yo, I live this 120, man. That's what it's about. 360 degrees. I claim my nationality as a citizen of the Washita, Munya Moorish Empire with the Crown Prince, Dr. Eileen. See, I mean, you know, we got real people that exist. We got a Crown Prince. We got an Empress. Verdassi, Tierra, Tunica, Gotson, Washington, L. Bay. We got a true and living Empress. I mean, come on now. How are we gonna talk about, you know, we conscious and we don't want to connect to our conscious our conscious longevity. It's already been established by the ancestors. You're not gonna lose nothing. All you're doing now is taking possession of what's rightfully yours, and you can hold it, and it is yours, and nobody else, any third party, any state can involve themselves in your matters. Everybody think they're gonna lose something. That's the fear. Not to mention, you align yourself as the heir to the land. North America, not the United States, but North America. You know, but you know, I don't know what else to say about that, man. I mean, I can go on all day. We can go through 120 on this thing, and we can relate every lesson from 120 to what's going on today, and another point in time before what's going on today. And not to mention, we can already predict the future of what's going to happen even worse. So I'm like, yo,
what's going on with this album? Because my brother, he gotta motivate. So let's talk about the album coming up.
All right. GraveDiggaz, the Gatekeeper, the Enlightener, the Enlightened One. Actually, the album's going to be out probably I'll say around my physical in September. You know, depending on what's going on or what will be going on by then. But definitely the release is in September. You know, on Sunstar Music Group, which is my indigenous label. Collaborations, I would say, to be continued. Because right now, I got enough to say. I don't need nobody to help me. You know, I still read and write. You know, I don't mind knocking out 32 bars. It ain't a problem.
Nice.
48 bars is not a problem. You know, so it's like, so yeah, the new album's gonna be out. It's gonna be GraveDiggaz. It's gonna be it's gonna be a mix of the first album and the last album. As far as the way I'm working on it, you know, definitely Do the Knowledge Radio gonna have a definite how you say it
exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. A definite exclusive.
Yeah.
A definite exclusive, and you know, like I said, but to be continued. Other than that, the album is coming out beautiful. I've been through some trials and tribulations though through that album, but you know, basically, you know, I'm still doing it in behalf of the Nation of Gods and Earths, Moorish Science Temple, and the Nation of Islam, and my brothers and sisters in the Israelites. You know, so it's like I'm still dropping knowledge. I can't get away from that because that's what I came into. You know, how I began my career in this. I'm not looking for I'm not looking for no situations to sell out. I'm not looking to hit Hollywood. I'm not looking to do movies and all this kind of stuff. But my vision is going to be all through music videos. You know what I mean? So that I can say, and do the knowledge. Congratulations for 5 years and still building. You know, I give you props. Other cats ain't make it this long. You know, even with the star lineup that they had behind them. You know, and to the brother, knowledge. I ain't got nothing but love for you, God, buddy. And knowledge born of law. You know how we do. We always building. Word is bond. But sometime next time I'm gonna do an interview on your ass because I need to know where you thinking. I need to know where you at. You know what I mean? It's good to interview everybody, but then again, you still got to make knowledge born. Right. Even if you do a show for yourself, because I listen to you. You know what I mean? I already know, but we need to know how we thinking. We, in the nation of God and earth back in the days, if you ain't no lessons, you got beat down. They whipped your ass, God, straight up and down. And it was a contract. You agreed to it because you said you're gonna, the prescribed laws of Islam. So therefore, you got to go according to it. This ain't no joke. This ain't no game, So peace to the gods, to my brothers in the music industry, sisters in the music industry. Props to my brother Nick Cannon. I heard you. I hear you, brother. I see where you at. And, just be safe, man, because you have a lot of power right now, man. You wise and you ain't so loud. So keep the energy that you got and do bigger things for your people. Everybody else, I done seen them come, seen them go. It's always a before and after. So my brothers, I still support my brothers in the film industry. I support their videos, support their music, I support their shows, I support their movies. But we at a point now where y'all need to bond together, set up a central system of information for the rest of our people so that we can know which direction we're going to. And stop letting outside people come separate and divide you from your family so that you think you could live a righteous way of life, but you can't do it as being a part of a savage in the pursuit of happiness. So that's about it, God, buddy. You know how I do, God. You need me anytime, I'm there. Right. I build.
That's peace.
I build.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate you coming through, dropping jewels, showing love. You know what I'm saying? And we looking forward to that exclusive when they get closer to that project. See what I'm saying? Let the family know what's coming.
Word is bar,
can you
God,
give out your social media? The social media stuff so people can contact you.
Social media, Facebook is Frukwan Bey, FRUKWANBEY. Instagram is Gatekeeper _GraveDiggaz, and Twitter is Frukwan. And I guess that's it. I ain't up on all this other stuff people got, but that's what I'm using. So you want to holler at me, get at me. Let's build. You know what I mean? As long as you come in the name of love, peace, and happiness, I'll work with you. You come for any kind of, I'm a profit off your verse, it ain't gonna work. I'm gonna wind up taking your money and you ain't gonna have no verse. You probably gonna have me just giving a lecture and shit, and you can put that in your beat and see if you can make it catch up to the BPM and shit as a rhyme. I don't know.
Right.
We
out here, fam. Peace.
Peace, God. Peace.